Hello, 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 everybody. Happy Monday. I hope everybody's doing well. It is April here from Offer HR and Business Solutions. How was your weekend? Did everybody have a good weekend? I hope everybody had a good weekend. Mine's was kind of quiet. Mine's was kind of quiet. How about yours? You have a good weekend? I sure hope you did. Again, mine's was pretty quiet. Didn't do too much. But I am dropping in with some goodies for you today. Again, this is Monday. It's a beautiful Monday, lights of sunshine. So I hope everybody's doing good. So let's talk about the role of leaders in employee relations. Okay, that's what we're going to chat about today. So, you know, our topic this month is using employee relations as a growth strategy. And so I hope everybody can hear me. Please let me know if you can't hear me. I think you can hear me. You should be able to hear me. I got my microphone on. Hold on, let me try something for a minute. Post. Why it's doing that? Oh, you know why? I know why. Okay, hold on. There we go. Okay. All right, give me a minute. Let me take the volume down on my else. Okay. So this might be a little bit better, but let me know when you come in if you can hear me. Okay. So let's jump in. So we're talking about our 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 topic for this month, is we're using employee relations. It's using employee relations as a growth strategy. It's not a chore. It's actually a leadership's responsibility. It's a leader's responsibility, employee relations. And so today we're going to talk about 5 ways that employee leaders can use employee relations. I'm looking all around here because I'm keeping an eye out on the left here for my dog who's being a little antsy this morning. Okay, or this late afternoon. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the role of leaders in employee relations. Okay, and so employee relations is a tool. Okay, it is a tool. If you don't stop, you're going to go get in your house. Let's stop it. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. Okay. And so the role of a leader in employee relations is very important because, first of all, leaders have to lead. They have to walk by example, right? To be honest, employee and supervisors can either build harmony or they can build a workplace of drama. Right? They can go either way. Let me have that. Right? And that's evident, right? They can have either or. Okay. So today we're talking again about 5 ways that leaders can step up and make employee relations a growth strategy. not a chore. Okay. Again, we've been talking about employee relations and how um, employers can, they or leaders can really um, how leaders can they make that decision. They make that distinction. Right, on which way they want their team to go. Do they want them to go this way or that way? They make that distinction. Okay, so the 5 ways that leaders, okay, can use employee relations, right, as a growth strategy instead of a chore. Is one is training your supervisors. Okay, that's very important. Training your supervisors, because a lot of times employees, we talk about this, that leaders, managers come in and they fall into the position. Sometimes they're like a default, right? You've seen that happen, right? And so it's very important that you train your leaders throughout their tenure in the company. Okay. Second is encourage empathy. Okay. It's very important. A lot of times leaders consider themselves as, I'm the boss, I'm not a therapist. Okay. As the HR leader or manager, you can be the therapist, right? Sometimes you are emotional support, right? You can be any number of things. But if you can't excuse me, you have to be able to empathize with what your team is going through, what members of your team, if they're needing help in their position, if their work is not up to par, right? Or if they are having trouble at home, if they need to seek help outside of your expertise, right? If they need to see somebody, meet with a therapist or whatever that looks like, right? Because the one thing you can't do is put your head down and forget and act like you don't see it. Okay. Third is monitor fairness, right? This happens too many times where managers may play a bit of favoritism, right, towards employees, and that backfires every single time. Okay, every time. Fourth, share accountability. That means when a leader makes a mistake, right? When they make a mistake, they have to be held accountable. And leaders, just like employees, have to learn from their mistakes. Okay, and they have to have a culture where their mistakes are acknowledged, and they learn from them. Okay, and then the fifth way is reward good leadership. Okay, encourage good leadership. Even if you see individuals that are not managers, but they're exhibiting leadership characteristics or capabilities, you want to capitalize on that. Okay, and encourage and reward. Okay, so those are the 5 ways. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about training supervisors. So, have you ever had a boss? Let me know in the comments. with zero skills, have no clue what they're doing as an HR person or as in front, working in um, manufacturing as a leader. Again, some managers fall into those positions, right? Some of them do. So when you make the decision to put someone in that a individual in that position, you have to let them know. You have to train them. Okay, put it back. Something happened here, but it's important that when you put someone into a leadership position, that you train them. I have a great free training that has been a huge success, which is leadership skills for first time managers. Okay, and so you have to train them, but that doesn't start with this training them when they start that position, right? Okay, it starts with it. Training is continuous, so you're training them on how to identify harassment situations, sexual harassment prevention. So it's a continuous learning environment. That's the environment you should have. Okay, so you want to train them because, again, oftentimes supervisors are promoted because they have great technical skills, but not necessarily great people skills. Okay, and so without that training, they're winging it, right? They're winging it, and this can be dangerous because that kind of, when they're not trained, it leads to inconsistent discipline, poor communication, and even lawsuits. Okay, so you not training your leaders, your managers, is setting yourself up for a huge problem. Okay, and it's not about investing a whole bunch of money into training. Okay, because it doesn't have to be that, but it's about teaching your leaders about practical skills. Okay, how to have the hard conversation. All right, we have a free webinar coming up on October 1st, difficult conversations. Okay, how to document properly. Because if it's not documented, it didn't happen, right? All right, and how to recognize and when to involve HR instead of trying to handle it themselves. Because sometimes they can resolve the issue themselves. All right. So you want to think of it like you wouldn't want anybody to drive someone to drive without a license, right? So you have to train them. Okay. Second is encourage empathy. Okay. Just because you're the boss doesn't mean you don't empathize with your team. Okay. And you know, I guess the question to ask is, do you think of empathy as um, a leadership strength or a leadership weakness? Okay, let me know in the comments. Do you see it as a leadership weakness or a leadership strength? Okay, because a lot of leaders think because they're the boss, again, that doesn't include being a therapist. Okay, but empathy doesn't mean you're being soft. Okay, it means that you're understanding your team, your employees, your team. and you're listening. You know, employees don't necessarily need their leaders to solve their problems, but oftentimes it's having a leader who listens and cares that makes the difference. Okay, right? So, for example, if an employee's performance is not up to par, what it usually is, the way it usually is, and so it's leaders should take on the attitude of what's going on, how can I help, as opposed to assuming that this employee is lazy. Okay. Studies show that leaders who demonstrate empathy have teams with a 40% higher engagement and retention. Okay, so that's really a good number. You have to listen and understand to your team. Okay, empathy costs you nothing. Okay, but turnover can cost you thousands. Okay, so let's go to our next one, which is monitor fairness. And this is what you need to make sure that you are also training your leaders about monitoring fairness. Have you ever seen favoritism in work? I know you have. We all have at some point. Okay? And so nothing sinks culture quicker than favoritism, because favoritism results in negativity, toxicity. You have to be fair. Okay, so if one employee gets flexibility in terms of what time they report to work, but another gets micromanaged, you're losing trust among your team. And once you lose that trust, sometimes you can't get it back. If you are, again, enforcing policies on tardiness on some employees, but not on others. Okay. Fairness is not about treating everyone the same. It means applying the policies consistently. Okay. And you're doing so while you're respecting the needs of, each individual. Okay. So it's not about treating everybody exactly the same, but you are applying the policies consistently across the board. Okay, when employees believe a system is fair, they're less likely to file complaints, quit, okay, or be disengaged. So be consistent across the board. All right, and you may oftentimes think no one sees it, but they see it. Okay. All right, and so now let's talk. The next fourth one is sharing accountability. Okay, leaders should be held accountable just like everyone else. Okay, so do you think does your company hold your leaders accountable? Okay, and so the employee relations is not it's not an HR's job. HR creates policies, guides leaders, Okay, and provide structure. All right. So your accountability looks like documenting performance conversations, addressing issues early on instead of waiting until there's an issue, there's a bigger problem. Okay. And following through with commitments to your employees. Do what you say you're going to do. When your leaders dodge accountability, it creates a bigger mess. And cleaning up after your leaders is is more costly than cleaning up after your employees, your non-management staff. Okay. And then fifth is reward good leadership. Oftentimes you see employees that may not be managers, but they exhibit leadership skills, leadership characteristics. They encourage others. They may work with others on projects. Okay. Have you ever had a boss that you actually wanted to thank for being a great leader? Okay. That's the question. You know, have you ever had someone that you said, you know what, that they were a good leader? Not necessarily a good boss, but a good leader. Okay, companies oftentimes reward numbers and results, but but they forget to recognize how the results were achieved. Okay, so if a manager hits targets but burns their team out, right? That means you're not retaining people, because if you're burning your team out, they're leaving. Okay, so you want to recognize your leaders that communicate well with your team clearly. All right, and handle conflict fairly. Again, handling conflict is a skill. So you have to teach your leaders, your managers, your team leads how to identify these situations and get them resolved before they get out of hand. All right, and build trust and morale. Don't when you have team leaders or people on your team that may not be may not be managers, but they're good for morale and good for building trust. You want to acknowledge that. Okay, and so drop in the comments, what is one thing that you wish that leaders did better? Is it communicate better? Is it being consistent? Is it being fair? What does that look like for you at your company? Because leaders don't just manage tasks. Okay, anybody can manage tasks for the most part, but your leaders are building culture. They're building trust. Your leaders that are trained to be empathetic and fair and accountable, they're great problem solving, which is great for the growing your business. So ask yourself, are your leaders building harmony or just managing headaches? All right. If you want to equip your team, if you're ready to to equip your team, your leaders. With great leadership skills. I have a great book, a ebook that a great ebook, which is a guide for leaders for progressive discipline, respect, and workplace harmony. And I'm going to drop the link down here for you. It's From Conflict to Clarity. Okay. And we talk about the cost of conflict in that book. I talk about practical conflict resolution strategies. There are work checklists in there and some worksheets in there. We talk about how progressive discipline should be done the right way, preventing bullying and harassment, and when to escalate. Okay. And building culture of respect, a culture of respect. Okay, so I'm gonna drop that link down here for you. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, folks. I'm gonna drop this link down here for you. And you can download this book really quick. All right, here we go. All right, here you go. There you go. All right, and there's the link for that. And then don't forget about the free webinar that we're hosting on October the 1st, which is Mastering Difficult Conversations. Okay, we're going to talk about the framework for handling difficult conversations and conflict in your business. We're going to talk about how to you'll learn how to train your leaders. Okay, it's a 1-hour webinar. It is totally free. Again, on October 1st at 11 a.m. All right, and I am going to drop that link down here as well. All right, and then I put that there. And so during the free webinar, okay, we'll talk about the hidden costs of avoiding those tough conversations. Again, the step-by-step framework to approach difficult conversations, and confidence, and ready to use scripts for the conversations that you dread the most. All right. And the do's and don'ts that keep your business safe, your business and your people safe. And then finally, how to walk away from hard talks with stronger trust and clear expectations. Okay, so that's what you'll learn in our free webinar. It is October 1st, 11 a.m. Okay, and so I look forward to seeing you there. All right, so business can be like a circus. Don't let HR be the elephant in the room. All righty. I am going to drop the compliance confidence checklist in here for you too. So if you have not did your compliance check for the year, you better get on it. We only got a few months left. A little over 100 days left. Ooh. All right, folks. So listen, have a wonderful Monday. And I will check you guys out tomorrow. All righty. So business can be like a circus. So don't let HR be the elephant in the room. Okay. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Monday. And I'll check you guys out tomorrow. Don't forget to leave your comments below and your HR questions. Don't forget Freedom Friday is coming around. And I'm looking for your HR questions to answer live on Friday. Okay? So have a great one, folks. Business can be like a circus. Don't let HR be the elephant in the room. I'll check you guys out later. Have a great one.